Have you ever noticed that the days you try hardest to feel confident are often the days you end up feeling most fragile and anxious? You wake up, look in the mirror, and repeat affirmations like, I am strong, I am worthy, I am successful. You walk into work or a social situation with your shoulders back, determined to project self assurance. And yet, by the end of the day, one offhand comment from a colleague or a single awkward moment in a conversation can shatter the whole performance, leaving you feeling hollow, exhausted, and somehow even worse about yourself than when you started. If that cycle sounds painfully familiar, you are far from alone, and the psychological research has something genuinely surprising to say about why. It turns out the whole model might be backwards. Welcome to Mind Decoded. I'm Dr. Ann.
And I'm Zach. Dr. Ann, I have to admit, that opening hit a little too close to home. We're talking about self-esteem, right? The thing we were all told we needed more of?
Exactly. We're talking about the self-esteem myth. And Zach, this is one of those topics where the cultural narrative took a sharp turn away from the scientific evidence and nobody really noticed. For decades, we were told that high self-esteem was the master key. It would unlock academic success, career achievement, healthy relationships, and even prevent things like violence and substance abuse.
Right. I remember those school assemblies in the 90s. Everyone gets a trophy, every drawing goes on the fridge, every single child is told they are a special, unique genius. The whole "you are amazing just the way you are" movement. Wasn't that a massive society-wide project to raise self-esteem?
Exactly, and it was a well-intentioned one. The state of California actually created a task force to promote self-esteem and personal and social responsibility in 1986. There was a genuine belief, a hope, that boosting how people felt about themselves would cure a lot of society's ills. The logic felt so intuitive: if you believe you are valuable and capable, you'll act in valuable and capable ways. The problem is, it didn't work.
Wait, are you saying the entire self-esteem movement was a failure? I feel like my entire childhood was built on this premise. I want to push back a little, but I also have this sinking feeling you're about to show me the research. Lay it on me, doctor.
I accept the invitation. Let's get into the landmark research. A major review, and when I say major, I mean a massive meta-analysis led by psychologist Roy Baumeister and his colleagues, published back in 2003, looked at all the studies on self-esteem. They wanted to see if high self-esteem actually caused better grades, better jobs, better behavior. And what they found was deeply humbling for the field. High self-esteem does not cause better academic performance, it does not cause career success, and it does not prevent kids from bullying, using drugs, or engaging in early sexual activity.
I'm sorry, I need you to repeat that last part. High self-esteem does not prevent bullying?
It does not. In fact, the evidence pointed in a direction that made people very uncomfortable. The review found that bullies often have high self-esteem, arrogantly, aggressively high. They feel great about themselves. Their aggression is a tool they use to maintain that superiority. It's not a mask for secret self-loathing, which was the popular story we all like to tell.
So, the classic movie trope of the bully who goes home and cries because his dad doesn't love him? That's not the norm? The psychological reality is that he goes home, thinks he's the king of the world, and plans tomorrow's torment with a smile?
It's an unnerving picture, isn't it? And here's the part that surprised me most when I first dove into this research. The problem isn't just that high self-esteem fails to deliver on its promises. The problem is that the effort to pursue it can actually cause the very emotional instability we're trying to escape. Baumeister's work showed that the more people base their self-esteem on feeling good about themselves in a general unearned way, the more fragile that self-esteem becomes. It's like building a skyscraper on a foundation of sand.
Okay, I feel like I need to take a breath here, because I'm having one of those full body recognition moments and it's a little uncomfortable. I was a kid in the 90s. I got the trophies. And I grew up thinking I just needed to maintain that I am special feeling. So I'd walk into a party or a new job and I'd be internally chanting, "Be confident. People like you. You're smart." And if someone gave me a weird look or I said something slightly awkward, the whole house of cards would collapse. I'd spend the entire drive home replaying the moment, feeling like a complete fraud.
Zach, what you're describing, That cycle of performance and collapse is the absolute heart of this episode. Thank you for sharing that. What you were doing is what psychologists call contingent self esteem. Your feeling of worth was contingent on approval, it was a performance. And the research is very clear. People with highly contingent self esteem are actually more prone to anxiety and depression.
So you're saying the internal pressure to be confident was the very thing making me anxious. It's a psychological boomerang. The harder you throw it, the harder it comes back and hits you in the face.
That is a perfect analogy, and it gets to why the High Self Esteem Project was so misguided. It encouraged us to basically become narcissists. And I don't mean that in a casual, insulting way. I mean that in a clinical, research based sense. Narcissism at its core is about having an inflated, grandiose, and yet incredibly fragile sense of self that is totally dependent on validation from others. And research by Jean Twenge and Keith Campbell has shown a dramatic rise in narcissistic traits among young people over the decades that the self-esteem movement was in full bloom. They weren't creating resilient, happy kids, they were creating kids who needed a constant stream of likes and praise just to feel okay.
This is where it gets personal, for me, in a literally modern sense. Likes. You're talking about my relationship to social media, aren't you? I post something and I am refreshing the page, waiting for that little dopamine hit of a notification. And if a friend posts at the same time and gets more likes than me, I feel a genuine physical drop, a sense of failure.
And does that feeling of failure motivate you to create a better, more authentic piece of content next time?
No, it motivates me to either delete the post out of shame or to craft the next one more carefully, to be more likable, more perfect. It turns my life into a marketing campaign for a product that doesn't exist.
Exactly, and that's the terrible irony. The pursuit of high self-esteem makes our lives a performance, and deep down, the audience knows when they're witnessing a performance. It erodes genuine connection. The research shows that people who are focused on boosting their own self-esteem are generally less attuned to the feelings and needs of others. They're so busy managing their internal PR campaign, there's no room left for real empathy.
So, what's the alternative? Because I can feel this. My brain is now showing me a highlight reel of every time I've done exactly this. I can feel the contingency, almost like a puppet string, tied to my chest and someone else is holding the other end. If telling myself I am confident is a lie that makes things worse, what do I do tomorrow morning when I have a difficult meeting and I feel the old anxiety creeping in?
And look, once you understand the mechanism behind this, you might actually feel more compassion for yourself. Because this isn't a character flaw, it's a cultural script you were handed, and almost all of us were handed it. The powerful research-backed alternative is something called self-compassion, and the leading researcher in this field is Dr. Kristin Neff. Her work shows that the path to a stable, resilient sense of self-worth isn't through self-esteem at all. It's through self-compassion, which sounds a bit soft and fluffy, but I promise you, the neuroscience is tough. It has 3 core components.
Okay, 3 things. I'm ready. I need a new operating system. Give me the 3 pillars.
Pillar 1. Self-kindness versus self-judgment. This is the most anti-intuitive one for a lot of us. When you fail or make a mistake, say, in that difficult meeting, you fumble your words and the client looks unimpressed, the self-esteem script is to double down. I am confident, next time I'll be better. But that's a rejection of your actual experience. Self-kindness instead says, wow, that was a really hard moment. I felt nervous and embarrassed, and that really hurts right now. It's just acknowledging the pain with warmth, the way you would for a friend, instead of slapping a performance mask on it.
Just having you say that, I could feel my shoulders drop a little. The phrase acknowledging the pain with warmth instead of slapping a performance mask on it, that's a massive shift. When I fumble in a meeting, I don't let myself feel embarrassed. I immediately pivot to fix-it mode or deny it mode. I go straight to, I'm a confident person. That was just a blip. Ignore the blip. But the blip is still there, screaming.
And the effort to suppress that screaming, to keep the mask glued on, consumes enormous cognitive and emotional energy. It makes you exhausted. Self-kindness is about dropping the mask internally and saying, yeah, that sucked. Pillar 2 is also brilliant. Common humanity versus isolation. The self-esteem script makes us feel like our failures are unique and shameful. I fumbled because I am uniquely broken and not confident enough. Self-compassion recognizes that to be human is to be imperfect. Millions of people fumble in meetings today. Failure isn't a sign you're off the path. Failure is the path. You are just a human having a very human moment.
I have genuinely never thought of it that way. When I fail, I feel so alone in that moment, like I'm the only one who didn't get the memo on how to be a flawless adult. But you're right, if I think about it logically, everyone else is also fumbling. The universe is just a giant, chaotic symphony of awkward moments and mistakes. That's weirdly comforting.
A symphony of awkward moments. I love that. And that feeling of comfort, that's not just poetic, it's neurological. When you stop isolating yourself with your failure, your threat response system, driven by cortisol, starts to calm down. It feels safe because it is safe. The third pillar is mindfulness versus over-identification. When we're caught up in the self-esteem trap, we become our thoughts and feelings. I am a failure. I am anxious. Self-compassionate mindfulness allows you to observe those thoughts without becoming them. You notice, there is the feeling of shame. There is the thought that I'm an idiot. You see them as mental events passing through, not as the definition of who you are.
Okay, this is the observer mode. I've heard about this. So it's the difference between standing in the middle of a storm getting pummeled by rain and watching the storm from a window inside a warm house. The storm is still there, but you are not the storm. You're the one watching it.
That's exactly it, and this is where the research gets absolutely stunning. Dr. Neff and her colleagues have done studies that compare people with high levels of self-compassion to people with high self-esteem. And self-compassion gives you all the good things that we falsely hoped high self-esteem would give you: stability, resilience, less anxiety and depression, a greater sense of well-being, without any of the dark side. It doesn't collapse when you get negative feedback. It doesn't require feeling better than other people. It actually makes you more connected to others, which is a fundamental human need.
So it's self-esteem, but anchored to reality. It's not I am a special, perfect genius, which is a lie. It's I am a flawed, normal human being who sometimes fails, and that is okay. And paradoxically, that honest, compassionate stance makes you feel more stable and secure than the grandiosity ever did.
That's the paradox that once you see it, changes everything. It changes how you talk to yourself, how you parent, how you lead a team, because the goal isn't to replace negative self-talk with fake positive self-talk. The goal is to relate to yourself with a radical, warm, reality-based honesty. When you drop the exhausting performance of self-esteem, you find a quiet, genuine confidence waiting there. Not the confidence of I am better than others, but the confidence of I can handle being a human with all the mess that involves.
I feel like we've just deconstructed my entire internal operating system, diagnosed a fundamental bug, and handed me a patch. And the patch isn't a louder affirmation. It's a quieter, kinder, more honest voice. So if our listener is walking into their own difficult meeting tomorrow, or going to that party where they always feel a bit insecure, what's the one concrete takeaway? What do they actually do instead of the old be confident mantra?
The takeaway is this: the next time you feel the anxiety or the impulse to perform confidence, gently shift your inner dialogue from evaluative to compassionate. Don't ask, am I good enough for this? That's a self-esteem question, and it's a trap. Instead, place your hand on your chest if it feels right, and silently name the feeling. This is anxiety. This is a moment of feeling small. This is a moment of wanting to be liked. Just naming it with kindness, without trying to push it away, is the single most powerful thing you can do. You are not erasing the feeling. You are holding it. And research shows that from that grounded place of self-compassion, you'll actually act more calmly, more competently, and more authentically. The performance is over. And that's when the real quiet confidence begins.
The performance is over. This has been one of those episodes, Dr. Ann, where I feel genuinely changed. I need to sit with this. And for our listeners, if this changed the way you see your own inner critic, maybe for the first time in a long time, share this episode with someone who you know is exhausted from performing. And don't forget to subscribe to Mind Decoded. We unpack the psychology of who we are every single day. No jargon, no fluff, just the good stuff. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you then.